check it out. This is a 9.2 special right triangles. And the whole idea with this one is there are two special cases of right triangles. So we have the 45, 45, 90, and then we have the 30, 60, 90. These are definitely gonna like come about, especially in future math classes. And it's kind of just like a cool little trick, and it's super, super useful, especially as you go further along. So like the 45, 45, 90 triangle is gonna look like this. It's gonna be a right triangle, obviously. So this is a right triangle. So that's the 90 right here. So 90, 90. And this angle degree is gonna be 45, and this angle degree is gonna be 45. So if this were to happen, then you know this value, this length right here, would be x. And this length right here would also be x. And the cool stuff, like the cool thing about this is that you know the hypotenuse, no matter what, is going to be x times the square root of 2. This is how forever and ever and ever. And you can like prove this very, very simply, like very, very simple. If you did like this right triangle, like let's say this is 1, and this is a right triangle. So Pythagorean theorem, if you wanted to find the hypotenuse, it's going to be a squared plus b squared, right, equals c squared. So it'd be c squared. Well, 1 squared is 1, 1 squared is 1. So you have 2, and then you do c, take the square root, take the square root. So c is equal to the square root of 2. That's it. So it would be 1 times the square root of 2. All right. So like in very, very general cases, again, if you know this is a 45, 45, 90, and this is 3, then the hypotenuse has to be 3 square root 2. And it's just a really cool trick, and super, super handy, especially as we go further along. All right, and now for the 30, 60, 90, this one can get a little bit more tricky, but it's gonna look something like this. So you're gonna have your right triangle, and the shorter side right here, the angle, so the opposite angle, like here, this one here, is gonna be 30. This is a 30. This would be 60. And this angle right here, or this side length right here, I'm sorry, is the hypotenuse. So it's gonna go like this. So this is gonna be, we'll call it short, because this is the short side. And then the long side is gonna be short, whatever length this short side is, short times the square root of 3. And this hypotenuse is going to be 2 times the short side. Okay? And this is always multiplying, so multiplying. So like a quick little scenario, if you know this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle, so this is the 60, this is the 30. This side length right here, let's say they tell us it's like 5. Then I know the hypotenuse, no matter what, is going to be 2 times the short. Well, the short is 5, so 2 times 5 is 10. This is going to be short times square root of 3, so that's going to be 5 square root 3. Okay? And like a quick like way to help me remember this, like the long side right here, is whenever I see this 30, I just think like square root of 3, 30, it kind of goes together. It's a little bit of a stretch, but it's just a good way to remember, like to help me to memorize it. Remember the hypotenuse is always opposite of the right angle, so this is the hypotenuse. And that's about it. All right. So for this example, this is just focusing on the 45, 45, 90 triangle. Okay. So if they gave you this sort of information and they tell you for A, they tell you it's a 45-degree angle, this is a right triangle, and this is 8, and then we have to find this x value. Whenever you're dealing with right triangles, it's always best to kind of identify the hypotenuse. So if this is the right angle right here, that means opposite of it would be this x value. So this side length right here is the hypotenuse. Okay, and then we know that the 45, 45, 90 triangle is if you have this side length right here, then this opposite side right here has to be 8 as well. And the hypotenuse is going to be 8 times the square root of 2. So the hypotenuse is equal to the side. It doesn't matter what side you have because they're going to be equal. So side times the square root of 2. So in this case, the side is equal to 8. So 8 times the square root of 2 is going to be this. And this equals x, which equals the hypotenuse. All right. Now for B, again, it always helps to identify the hypotenuse. So opposite would be this. So this right here is your hypotenuse. Now we have to find these x values. Also, one thing, they don't tell us this is a right triangle. Or no, they do tell us it's a right triangle, but they don't tell us it's a 45, 45, 90. But if it's a right triangle and these x value, the sides are the exact same, it's always going to be a 45, 45, 90. So always, if the side lengths are the same. Plus, it's a right triangle. All right. Now we know, like we said over here, hypotenuse is equal to the side. I'll put side. Side times the square root of 2. Now the information that's given to us is we're given the hypotenuse. All right. So hypotenuse is equal to 5 square root of 2. And these sides right here, smudged it. This is our x value times the square root of 2. Now, how do you solve for x? You just divide by the square root of 2. Divide by the square root of 2. These cancel out. So 5 equals x. Now, some of you are just going to be able to like see it and go straight to your answer. If you're like, oh, this is 5 square root of 2, this must be 5. Others, this is kind of like a good little setup. All right. So for example 2, we have the 30, 60, 90. And to be honest, guys, the 30, 60, 90 is a little bit more challenging than the 45, 45, 90. I feel like the 45, 45, 90 is very, very straightforward. But the 30, 60, 90, you actually have to kind of problem solve a little bit. So in general, if this is your 30, 60, 90 triangle, if this is 30, opposite of 30 is going to be the short side. If this is 60, opposite of 60 is going to be the long side. And the hypotenuse, no matter what, is always opposite of the right angle. I'll use black for that, actually. So this is the hypotenuse. Now, in this example, they give us that that the hypotenuse is 30. And we have to solve for y and x. All right. So the key to this, the key to all this 30, 60, 90 business is, so like step 1, I guess, find the short side. So find short side. That makes your life so much easier. So if we find the short side, it's gonna reveal everything else. So in general, we know, back to like, if you go back to like the video, I guess, it's gonna be that the hypotenuse is equal to 2 times the short side. All right. And actually, I'll make this blue. All right. So 2 times the short side. And we know the hypotenuse is 30. So the short side has to be what? So equals 2 times the short. I'm just going to use the short. Divided by 2, 15, right? Equals the short side. Ooh. So this right here, this y, so short is going to be equal to, this equals y, 15. So from here to here is going to be 15 equals right here. Equals. Cool. Now, the long side, again, based off the video, we know it's going to be, so the long, and I'll use red or pink, whatever this color is, long equals the short side, so I'll use blue, short times the square root of 3. And then remember, because this is the 30-degree sign, this 3 square root of 3, yeah. So it's going to be short. We just found out short is 15. So it's going to be 15 times the square root of 3. So it's going to be 15 times the square root of 3. And you can kind of get rid of that multiplication sign and just kind of put them next to each other. Equals long. And that is it. Cool. You can leave it just like that. This is in radical form. Okay? All right. So for this example, and this is example 2 also kind of, it's just because, again, it's focusing on the 30, 60, 90. But this one, they give us different information, right? So we kind of have to identify what are we given. We're given this 9, which is the long side. And I'll put long over here, so it's long. Also, I kind of like wrote us like a little key. And it's kind of good whenever you're doing your clever. Maybe you just have this open, just so you can kind of go about this. So we're given the long side. We are trying to find the short side and the hypotenuse. All right, we know this is the hypotenuse because it's opposite. We know this is the short side because it's opposite of the 30-degree angle. And the way we're going to go about this is we know the long side is equal to the short side times the square root of 3. So it's going to be long, which is 9, equals the short, which we don't know what it is, times the square root of 3. Now, to do this, and the way they want it in clever too, is you have to divide by the square root of 3, right? So divide by the square root of 3. And you can't put this into a decimal. They're not looking for a decimal, so no decimal. So you're gonna have to rationalize this. So rationalizing is when you multiply, so it's gonna be 9 times the square root of 3. And then you multiply, and I'll use like this different blue. I think it's different. Anyways, 9 times, and whatever this bottom number is. So times the square root of 3 times the square root of 3. All right, and this is, like if this was the square root of 5, then you would multiply by the square root of 5. But because this is square root of 3, we multiply everything top and bottom by the square root of 3. And that's gonna give us 9 square root of 3 over square root of 3 times square root of 3 is just 3. And then you simplify that down to 9 divided by 3 is 3 square root 3. All right, and this is the length, and this is all equal to the short side. So this equals x, which is equal to the short side. And remember, we did this because the key to finding this like 30, 60, 90 is to always find the short side. All right, so that's our like number 1 goal. So we did it, accomplished. So the short side is equal to 3 square root 3. Now to find the long, or the hypotenuse, we know it's gonna be 2 times the short side. So hypotenuse is equal to, hypotenuse equals 2 times the short side, which we know is 3 times, or 3 square root 3. Now, when we multiply whole numbers with radicals, so it's going to be 2 times 3, which is just 6 square root 3. The radical itself doesn't change, okay? The number on the outside only does. So it equals the hypotenuse. And that's it, guys. So y, or this also equals y, equals 6 square root 3, and x equals 3 square root 3. Cool.